Welcome to Spurs Focus, your go-to spot for daily Tottenham news, transfers, and match updates. Don't forget to support the channel by hitting that subscribe button now. Let's dive into today's top story. Tottenham escaped from the Arctic with a lucky point. In a fiery Champions League night in Bodo, Jens Petter Hauge's brilliance had Spurs staring at defeat, but a late own goal spared Thomas Frank's men as they stumbled to a 2-2 draw in front of a rocking 8,000 yellow-clad fans. Tottenham returned to Bodo and left with a share of the spoils, as they somehow salvaged a 2-2 draw in the Champions League on Tuesday night. A Jens Petter Hauge double was exactly what the hosts deserved, as they overwhelmed their error-strewn guests only for captain for the day, Mickey van de Ven, to head a goal back, and then in the 89th minute, an Archie Gray shot was saved by the goalkeeper, only to bounce into the net off Bodo defender Jostein Gundersen to spare Thomas Frank's side's blushes. Spurs were back in the small Norwegian town by the sea just 4 months on from their 2-0 victory at the Aspmyra Stadion in the Europa League semi-final. Second leg back in May. This time it was for Bodo Glimt's first home game in the Champions League proper, and the town was awash with yellow ahead of the game, with flags hanging from almost every home. Frank made 5 changes to his Tottenham starting lineup from the team that snatched a draw from Wolves on Saturday evening. Captain Christian Romero missed the trip to the town above the Arctic Circle as a precaution, and the visitors missed his assertiveness in the tackle and on the ball. All of the first half pressure came from the home side, with a noisy crowd behind them, and on 32 minutes, Bodo Glimt were awarded a penalty, which was just reward for their efforts. Rodrigo Bentancur's late lunge brought down Frederick Andre Bjorken wide on the left of the Spurs box. The Uruguayan's blushes were spared, though, when Kasper Ho blazed his penalty into the net. But it was the netting hung high over the crossbar to prevent the ball from flying out of the stadium and into the road behind. Another let-off came just before the break, when Sondre Brunstad Fett found himself free 8 yards out, only to fire well over and ensure Tottenham somehow escaped into the dressing room for the interval, with the game goalless. Frank made no changes at the break, and the host kept on coming, and finally grabbed the goal they deserved on 53 minutes. Hauge cut inside from the left, turned Porro inside out, and curled a shot into the far corner of the net. Spurs thought they had grabbed an equaliser just 2 minutes later, when Bentancur turned in Brennan Johnson's shot after Porro's free kick hit the post. However, the referee Ivan Kruzliak was advised by VAR to head to his pitch-side screen after a shirt pull from Van de Ven on Odin Bjortuft, and the effort was ruled out. On 65 minutes, Hauge again left Porro in his wake before smashing a low shot into the bottom right corner. Van de Ven headed home a deep Porro cross to grab a goal back 3 minutes later, though, and Spurs went close to a leveller on 83 minutes, when Wilson Odobert sent a header against the left-hand post from substitute Mohamed Kudus's cross. The hosts hit the woodwork late on themselves through substitute Andreas Helmerson, only for Tottenham to grab that late second goal, when substitute Gray's shot was saved, but bounced back off Bodo defender Gundersen and into the net to hand the London side a barely deserved point. Here are our Tottenham player ratings. Guglielmo Vicario had to make an early save from Berg, and then a comfortable one from Bjortuft. Couldn't do much about the finishes from Hauge. 5 Pedro Porro turned inside out for both of Hauge's goals. Did hit the post with 1 free kick in the second half, before delivering a great cross for Van de Ven's goal to balance out his score. 5 Kevin Danso back in the team, and mixed some aimless passing with some vital early blocks. Looked all at sea at times alongside the backline. 4 Mickey van de Ven captain for the day, and he was penalised for a shirt pull that ruled out Bentancur's goal, but then headed home himself after Bodo's second. Did try to lead Spurs on and push them up the pitch in the second half. Lost his head with a late sliding tackle somewhat. 6 Jed Spence, going through a sticky run at the moment with some poor passing and worse deliveries. 4 Pape Matar. Sarr started the game with some sloppy moments in possession. Didn't get much better from then on. 4 Rodrigo Bentancur. Gave away the penalty in the first half with a misjudged lunge. Thought he'd got a leveller, only for Van de Ven's shirt pull. 5 Lucas Bergvall. Made a great early break that should have ended with a better Richarlison effort. Was overwhelmed with the midfield from then on. 5 Brennan Johnson. Another game where he struggled to contribute much, and their missed penalty came from him ducking out of an aerial battle. A poor night, but he did have the shot that Bentancur tucked home, only for Van der Ven's shirt pull to result in it being disallowed. 3 Richarlison scuffed a ball from Bergvall that should have been put away. Was pretty poor for most of the game, but did help force the leveller. 4 Wilson Odobert had a couple of bright moments on the ball amid Spurs' dreadful first half. Was quiet in the second half until sending a header against the post. 5. A decade ago, Bodo Glimt were nearly bankrupt and washing their own kits. Today, the tiny Arctic club with an 8,000-seat stadium is standing tall in the Champions League, ready to take on Europe's giants, all by doing things their own way. In some ways, Bodo Glimt's run to the league phase of the Champions League might feel like a miracle, but in others, it's the most natural thing in the world. The team from just north of the Arctic Circle is the first from Norway to reach the Champions League proper for the best part of 2 decades, but it's something they've been building towards for some time. Back in 2021/22, they beat Jose Mourinho's Roma 6-1 in a group stage game in the Conference League, eventually reaching the quarter-finals of the competition. And last season they beat big hitters Olympiacos and Lazio, en route to the Europa League semi-finals, losing to Tottenham. Tonight, they're home of Aspmyra Stadion, the smallest in this season's Champions League with a capacity of just over 8,000. Welcome Spurs once again. Barely a decade ago, though, things looked very different. Håvard Zakariasen, the club's former player and current sporting director, joined the backroom staff upon retiring in 2011 and faced a very different reality to the one we see today. It was a completely different club than today because we were almost bankrupt. We didn't have a kit manager. Zakariasen tells Mirror Football, "We had to fire the kit manager because we couldn't afford him. So we actually washed our training gear at home and we came ready to go to practice. Then you have to do everything. You have to be the kit manager, you have to arrange the trips, you have to be a part of everything, including what I do now. So I think the knowledge of the holistic part of the football club is somehow good to have. Then you have respect for the roles of everyone. And you see that everything has to come together. We have a quarter-final in Conference League. We have a semi-final and Europa League. So it is weird because when we qualified for Champions League, I can say that I felt like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. Because it was weird, but it kind of felt well-deserved too. It's weird because I know the story of the club, and I know where we were 10 years ago. But also we've done a good job in the last years, so we kind of felt also that we deserve this opportunity. Bodo Glimt's remoteness might look like a challenge for some. Bodo is nearly 2,000 miles from London, and more than 500 miles from the Norwegian capital of Oslo. But those at the club see it as an opportunity. If nothing else, it means the players they can bring on board will join for the right reasons, and a lot of work takes place behind the scenes to ensure everyone is a cultural fit, as well as a tactical one. In a world of multi-club models and cross-border partnerships, Zakariasen values another secret weapon, the concept of Vores Måte, which essentially translates as our way. If we try to copy something, we're just going to be a bad copy of something, he says. If we should have any chance to become something unique, and to get the potential out of the club, we have to do it our way. It has helped over the years for Bodo/Glimt to be able to point to significant success stories. A prime example is that of Albert Grønbæk, who had been sitting on Aarhus bench when he moved to Norway in 2022 and left 2.5 years later as a full international, and ultimately Bodo/Glimt's record sale. Suddenly, the calibre of player who might previously have had second thoughts about such a remote move were beginning to welcome it. The club have also recruited smartly from within Norway, and one of those players, defender Jostein Gundersen, is under no illusions about the things which have helped the team thrive. We have a unique culture here. Everyone goes in the same direction. Everyone wants to take the next step. Gundersen says, "We are living far north in Europe, but we have a unique togetherness and culture that makes it a special place to play football in." Gundersen, 29, played every minute of the knockout stages in last season's Europa League and started the first league phase game in this season's Champions League. Bodo Glimt trailed 2-0 away at Slavia Prague with just 15 minutes to go, but didn't give up, snatching a draw in the final minute through substitute Sondre Brunstad Fett. He describes Spurs as the best side he faced last season, but feels the Norwegians can cause problems for anyone who heads to Bodo this season. That includes the Europa League holders, but also Monaco, Juventus, and 2023 Champions League winners Manchester City. I think it might be a challenge to come here for a lot of teams, Gunderson adds. It's probably not the sexiest stadium for the world-class players that are coming here.